10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. I am here with you today, and we are going to be talking about, well, quite a few things. In particular, I'm going to talk about immigration, and it won't be a long video because I have to go to work, and I'm going to be leaving very shortly, so I'm going to be real brief here. There are a lot of things I do want to talk about, and most importantly, I want to talk about immigration. We want to talk about what's going on with the ICE raids that are supposed to be happening today across the nation. We know that it's been reported. It's been 3 weeks. There's been plenty of warning ahead of time. There is no question of what's happening here. ICE, the Department of the Government, is going out to enforce immigration law. That's pretty straightforward. And we know that there are many Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and we know also Speaker Nancy Pelosi, among many others. Even as news is reporting right now, many of the candidates on the Democratic 2020 nominee stage, including Beto O'Rourke, are coming out and they are trying to denounce this. In fact, The Hill today, which is July 14th, just reported that Beto O'Rourke is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he has said, quote, "In my administration, we are going to make sure that no one is criminally prosecuted for being a human being," which is one of the most stupid statements I've heard in quite some time. And that just came out from a candidate who is polling at about 5% and has no realistic chance of winning the Democratic nomination. He's a rich, well, relatively rich white male whose biggest accomplishment is losing to the man who lost to President Trump. Not a big push for that. But his thing is he's already gone across the border. He's been trying to help illegal aliens get into the United States. He's done this. Cory Booker has done this. They're basically pitching to illegal aliens to be able to be in the United States. And you have to wonder, and I've done an article about this, I've done a post about it, where we see that with the changes in immigration law and allowing illegal aliens to have driver's licenses, that then allows them to be able to go and automatically be registered to vote, the foreign influence in our elections is clear. But I don't want to get far afield of what I really want to talk about in this immigration issue that's happening today. I mean, many Americans are going out and they are about to pray. They're going to have their service, their religious services, and we see many illegal aliens are probably going to be joining them, at least from their homes they will, praying that they don't get deported today, even though they should, because they are willfully evading the law. And that is a problem, because we are looking at the nation picking, or some segments of the nation, picking and choosing which laws that they choose to follow. It's kind of like the full extent of what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said, that if her feelings are, if she feels like she's right, then it doesn't matter what is factually true or what is legal. And that's not an exact quote from her. I'm paraphrasing slightly. But let's look at what's actually been going on with the situation. As of this moment, we know that ICE has not conducted the raids as has been expected. We know that thousands are expecting this to happen. We know that this should involve at least 9 cities in America. There are early reports that in New York City, 2 raids were attempted without warrants, but they were attempted by ICE against illegal aliens, and that had failed. Why is there no warrant? I don't know. There could be many factors, like it could be a home. They don't know who is in that home, so they can't put in a warrant to say, we're going after person X. They don't know who person X is, because that illegal alien may have had access to a social security number that is fraudulent. that is either stolen or does not exist, and therefore they can't confirm that individual. That illegal alien may have gotten a driver's license in New York that was under a false name because they don't have documents. There's no way to prove who they are necessarily. And if they have lied to the United States government or even the New York state government, there's no way to prove who they are. So you can't necessarily put a warrant for their arrest when you don't know who it is you're trying to arrest because you don't have proof. Again, not having a document is the problem. The document is any legal authorization to be in the United States. But why is this such a big deal? Why is it such a problem that people are going around and they are trying to deport these illegal aliens? Because it's not a question of human rights. They have a right to live. That doesn't mean they have a right to live in the United States. That's not the same thing. And no one is denying them the ability to come into the United States legally. No. But what they are doing is saying that if you have violated our laws, you have to be punished under our laws. But why is it a big deal? Well, let's take a look at what's really been happening here. Why is it important? Because according to U.S. Immigration's Customs and Enforcement, that's ICE, back in March of this year, there were 5,200 adult immigrants in quarantine after being exposed to mumps and chickenpox. And that's a dramatic increase from just a few months ago. Now, this is being reported by CNN. So we're not talking about Fox or some liberal group that people, Democratic, Republican group that people want to say, well, they're just making up a story. No, this is being reported by CNN, which is known as a very liberal organization. They reported this on June 14th. June 14th, this story was updated and it was put out there. And the article originally, and this was done by Priscilla Alvarez. So you can't tell me that this is just some kind of right-wing propaganda. This is the left talking about this. This is the left reporting that there are thousands of individuals. The article goes on to mention that these individuals have been quarantined in centers across America, and that at least 800 people were exposed to chickenpox, 100 have had both measles and chickenpox, and 4,200 have been exposed to mumps. Now, think about that for a second. That's a lot of people. And we have seen that throughout the United States, there has been a growth in the number of people who are being infected with these infectious diseases, mumps, measles. And matter of fact, we had talked about this before. Our very own intern, John the Intern on the program, John Rastucia, had did an article about this back on June 11th, before the CNN article, before we knew that it was 5,200 individuals that were being quarantined. And he was talking about in the article called, "Will the Next Caravan Bring a Pandemic to the Southern Border?" He goes and he speaks about the fact that there is disease spreading, that in Venezuela and other countries in South America, there is an outbreak in measles and mumps. Since 2017, there have been 6,500 cases of measles in Venezuela alone. There has been an outbreak of 10,000 cases of measles in Brazil alone, just in the last year, and that it is spreading to Colombia, Ecuador, Chile, and the rest of South America. And in particular, this is the big thing here I want to address. Adding to the concern, I'm quoting the article, adding to concerns, Honduras, one of the largest sources of illegal immigration into the United States, according to the Migration Policy Institute, Honduras represents the fourth highest country of origin for illegal aliens. Honduras is the same country that in 2018, 1 year ago, announced a state of emergency for mumps, with over 5,000 cases being recorded. So the fact is, part of the reason why there is this impetus to get illegal aliens caught, and as is required by the law, is the fact that there is disease spreading throughout the United States. That's not a question. That's not a guess. That's not an estimate. It is a fact. That is a fact. It is a fact that Democrats don't like to talk about, but it is a fact. Individuals who are making 2,000-mile trips across several countries who don't have adequate medical care in their own country, because those countries like Venezuela are erupting into civil disorder, where the government is trying to take over and kill its own citizens in its push to become socialist. That's the result. And these people are leaving, and they are running to a safe haven, in particular the safe haven that is asking for them to come, which is the United States, in California, in particular in New York and other sanctuary states and cities. And they are introducing mumps and measles to our kids and to our population. So it only makes sense that the government would say, hey, this is a problem. We don't want measles and mumps in our countries, and we should do something to stop that. We should get these individuals, quarantine them, and deport them because they broke our law. Doesn't that make sense? I think people would agree with me. That makes sense. These are logical conclusions. And so we're seeing that even though, and that led to the fact that there are going to be at least 9 cities, according to USA Today, even though the raids have not started yet. Again, the latest news as of 6 a.m. today, the quote of the article is, no ICE raids yet, but immigrants in Miami, Los Angeles, New York, and elsewhere are still bracing. Let's think about that. They're bracing. What are they bracing for? Because they have broken the law. How are they bracing? It's not the government. This isn't Venezuela. The government isn't breaking down doors. They're not having secret police go around the nation killing 7,000 individuals over the last 2 years, as was reported by the New York Times. No, this is well documented, well published. The government is following the law, and it is enforcing the law. And yet we see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we see Nancy Pelosi going out and saying, hey, you know what? You got to hide. Avoid the law. Break the law. Don't continue to break the law. Don't do this. Don't help. Don't open your doors. And keep allowing people to spread mumps, measles, and other infectious diseases, and to violate our laws, to use fraudulent social security numbers to be able to get jobs, to go out and get driver's licenses that can't be given to any government agency for immigration, and use this false information to break even more laws and to be able to gain benefits like health care, like to get government aid for being unemployed and being in low income. That's coming out of taxpayers' pockets. That's coming out of your pocket. Okay, so that's where that brings us. So what does that mean to us, though? When you speak out about that, what if you don't agree with it? What if you say, well, that makes sense, that ICE is going to enforce the law because we know that there is a imminent, ongoing outbreak for the last several years of infectious diseases that we are now seeing in the United States affecting kids, so much so that New York State, as well as others, have gone out and made it mandatory that kids have to get vaccines. We haven't had to make it mandatory for people to get vaccines since polio. Since polio in the 1950s. We have literally gone over 60 years now, and kids must get vaccinated today for diseases that were considered non-existent in the United States. Notice how these things come together. So what happens when you say, hey, that makes sense? Well, what you get is kind of like what happened with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Homan, the former director of ICE. And here is just an excerpt of what that comment goes like when you hear the very progressive left being addressed with facts.
When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you enter the country illegally is violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. There's the answer. What happens? As we just saw in the video from C-SPAN, that was originally broadcast on C-SPAN. Oh, you can't do this. There's no law that's being broken. Yes, there is. It is a very clear law. It is a very exact law. And just so you know what it is, when people say, 8 U.S. Code 1325, that is the improper entry by aliens into the United States. And in there, it is the improper time or place. That is Section A. Any alien who enters or attempts to enter the United States at any time or place other than as designated by immigration officers, eludes examination or inspection by immigration officers, attempts to enter or obtain entry to the United States by willfully false or misleading representation or the willful concealment of a material fact, shall for the first commission of any such offense be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned not more than 6 months, or both, and for a subsequent commission of any such offense be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned not more than 2 years, or both. It is a crime. It is a very definitive federal crime. And it is a crime that contains both jail time as well as fines. But you don't hear that from the Democrats. As Alexandria Ocasio was stating, oh no, it's not a crime. It's not a crime to be illegal in the United States. It is a definitive crime. It is an actual crime. When they tell you it is an act without any crime, there is no crime being committed, they're lying to you. It is a definitive crime. It is an actual crime. And I just showed you the law. And if you want to, you can look this up. Oops, wrong way. You can look this up again. And I'm getting this from Cornell Law School. It is, again, USC. I want to bring this up properly. It is 8 U.S. Code 1325. You can look it up from Cornell Law School under the Legal Information Institute, and you'll be able to see this for yourself. That is the law of the United States. They are illegal aliens. That is the official designation. They're not undocumented. The document they miss is any authorization to be in the United States. They are illegal aliens, and they are breaking the law actively, willfully, and in many cases with help, like from Cory Booker, who literally entered a foreign nation, took foreign nationals, and brought them into the United States, evading immigration officers, not through a port of entry, and brought them into the United States. He broke 8 U.S. Code 1325. He aided and abetted in a federal crime. Why is he still a senator? I don't know. But let's go further. Because what is the reaction that we see from the left when you give them the facts? When you prove that this is a crime that is being enforced by the U.S. Attorney, as Homan mentioned to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when she had no answer to address the facts. What was the result? Well, the result is, and this is the problem, this is what drives people crazy, which makes it very difficult for people to be able to deal with this. And I want to get the right moment here, so bear with me. Because what we see, and I'm just going to give you a short piece of this, and what we're going to is, this is what followed up. This is Representative Garcia. And this is how he decided that he should address this issue and how he should address the facts that are being given to him by Homan, Tom Homan, on his and pointing out that this is a crime. He made this all about
families. Mr. Homan, do you understand that the consequences of separation of many children will be lifelong trauma and carried across generations?
Let's stop right there. What is he saying? Oh my God, you're hurting kids. You're such a mean person. You don't like kids, and you don't like kids that aren't your kids. He's making this personal. He's making a personal attack. He is trying to discredit Thomas Homan because he didn't like his answer, because his answer didn't agree with the progressive socialist ideology, because he gave facts, not feelings. And so this is a way to make him seem like a bad guy. Again, I want to continue with this, but I want to make sure we understand what is actually happening here. He isn't saying that it isn't legal. He's gone past that. He knows it's a fact. Instead, he's saying, you just don't like people. He's changing the argument to silence Homan. That's his goal. And so he goes on to say,
We not learned from the internment of Japanese Americans? Mr. Homan, I'm a father.
okay, wait a minute. He brought up something. Have we not learned from the internment of Japanese Americans? Let's be very clear here. They were Americans. Yes, it was a horrible thing. And yes, we did have to pay reparations for that, and it should not have happened. It was also a law in the United States. And yes, they were interned and they were released. They had legal rights in America. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. They weren't being tortured. They weren't being killed. Neither are the illegal aliens. They had a right to be in America. Yes, we shouldn't have done that. It's not the same thing when someone comes from a foreign nation, enters your nation, possibly with disease, breaks your laws, and willfully continues to break your laws. The Japanese Americans didn't break a law. They didn't. They're Americans. They belong in the nation and they didn't break a law. So was it a bad thing? Yes. Is it the same thing? No. They're not related. But he's trying to change the argument. He's trying to change the emotions. People didn't like that Japanese were interned in America. So isn't that like illegal aliens who are willfully breaking the law? No, it is not. So let's continue.
Do you have children? How can you possibly allow this to happen under your watch? Do you not care? Is it because these children don't look like children that are around you? I don't get it.
Stop. Wait a minute. Don't you care? Do you have children? What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? How does the law change? Where in that law, 8 U.S.C. 1325, where did it say, and if you have kids, you can break the law? If you have kids, you cannot enforce the law. That if you have kids, don't worry about it. It's okay. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you break the law, if you have kids. Matter of fact, let's go back to because that was brought up by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez too. And I want to give you that as well.
Mr. Chair, the memo is
Nope,
submitted to the record.
Hang on. Where is it? I believe it's here.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking us.
Okay, so we went over that before, but again, he points it out. So let me come back to what's going on here.
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my
I
country.
find your
I've served my
comments
country. I've
disgusting
served
as
my
well,
country
sir.
for 34 years.
I find your
This
comments
is out of
disgusting
control.
as well.
I've served my country for 34 years, and yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms. In back of that tractor trailer, I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life was like, and I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and
Don't.
insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of
We
Congress.
agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on
You
that,
have
but I
failed it. You
disagree.
have-
But I also
Hold on,
disagree
whoa.
with your characterization of immigrants as prone to criminality.
So let's look at this. And you can go to C-SPAN and you can see the whole thing. And that led me to say, hey, the progressive answer to everything they don't like is an ism. Racism, sexism, ageism, and they will create new categories if one doesn't exist. We need more responses like this from Homan to the blanket barrage of isms meant to silence serious discussions and issues progressives can't win. That is my comment on that. Very simply, we need to be aware. When you have the government going out and saying, hey, there is a potential problem, there is an outbreak of disease amongst individuals in countries that are entering our country illegally. So it is a danger to the public. It is a violation of our law. And we should protect the citizens, which is the job of the United States government. And we have other individuals who say, well, if you follow the law, if you protect the people, then you are a racist. Really? Is that the answer? You want them to shut up because you don't like it, even though the government is doing its job and protecting the public from a potential and real threat, with over 5,000 people that have had to be quarantined because of that threat, with the growth of diseases, infectious diseases that have not existed in this nation essentially for 50 years. Does this not make sense? So that brings us back to the final thing, and then I'll be going here, and that is that we see that Nancy Pelosi, as reported by the Washington Times, Pelosi Democrats urge illegal immigrants to resist brutal deportation raids. Okay? They're fighting against this. Let me ask you, when was the last time that you saw Nancy Pelosi for New York State and other states? They made it mandatory that parents have to have their kids immunized, whether they religiously or otherwise believe that it should be done. It is mandatory. Where were the Democrats defending those parents? Did you ever hear them say, well, parents have a right to have their religious beliefs? You didn't hear them say that. Where were the Democrats when, let's say you're late on your taxes, or you have trouble paying the taxes? Have you heard the Democrats say, hey, we're going to defend you. We're going to try and fight for you to be able to file your taxes late or not have to file them at all? No, you've heard them say that they want to increase your taxes and that you should pay more in taxes because you don't pay enough. How about when you own a firearm? Have you heard Democrats come out and say, well, we should defend the Second Amendment, that we should take care of people who own firearms because they're not the ones 99.999% of the time. That is literal. That is not a figurative number. That is a literal number. 99.999% of the 160 million people who own guns in America that are Democrats, libertarians, conservatives, Republicans, that we need to protect them and their right, and we should find a way to address criminals. No, you didn't hear Democrats say that. Instead, they said, like former Justice John Paul Stevens said, we need to get rid of the Second Amendment. You've seen that they have added red flag laws across the nation, like in New York, like in California, that have not prevented gun crime at all, not violent crime at all, but it has taken thousands of guns away from Americans. It has taken thousands of children from families under this law as a direct consequence, as we have discussed many times on this program, and led to the death of an American in trying to enforce this. That's what they have done. You're not seeing Democrats go out and defend Americans. You're seeing them go out and defend illegal aliens to be able to get a foreign influence in votes, to gain money, to emotionally manipulate people. And they're doing this not for your benefit. It's for their benefit. That I find to be insulting. So I've gone through this. It's been a little bit longer than I expected. I'm going to let this go because I have to get to work, but I want to hear what you think. What I've just laid out, doesn't it make sense that ICE should be having these raids and that they should have more raids and that we should not see our elected officials protecting criminals who may potentially cause harm to the nation, not only through fraud of Social Security, not only through the potential to influence elections, but also because there is the potential of infectious disease. Are these not reasons enough to enforce our laws, protect our nation, and protect you? Do you think I'm wrong? Did I miss something? Is there something that I'm talking about, some facts that I have missed here? Is there another law besides 8 USC 1325 that I'm not aware of? Because I want to hear what you think. Please let me know, and we'll talk again very, very soon. Thank you.